Liana and I were in a solid relationship. After a short time working long distance, I came back to marry her, only to find she'd already married someone else. She told me, distraught, Michael made a bet with someone, and I just married him to help him out. There's nothing between us, we'll get a divorce soon. To make up for the fact that this makes me a divorce, I'll give you another 10% of my shares. She shook my arm, her usually cool expression replaced by a pleading look. Honey, you're a career guy. You won't sweat the small stuff, right? Right. But not entirely. Because if you destroy the small stuff, there's nothing left to sweat, is there? I came back from my overseas assignment early to surprise Liana. When I found my key wouldn't open the door, I didn't think much of it and just called building management. I've always had the property manager's number. He let me in only for us to find a wedding photo of Liana and another man in the most prominent spot in the sprawling living room. The young manager's eyes went wide with disbelief. I was mortified and panicked, my whole body trembling with shock. I tried to force myself to calm down, but my heart just kept hammering. Liana came screeching up to the building and rushed in, stumbling so badly she had to grab the doorframe to steady herself. She hurried to my side, grabbing my hands and explaining breathlessly. I floored it the second I got the call from management, ran a few red lights, just to get here and explain. She caught her breath and continued, Billy, please don't get the wrong idea. Michael is your cousin, and you asked me to look after him. He's young and reckless. He made a stupid bet with someone, and I only married him to help him out. It all happened so fast, I didn't have time to talk to you. But no matter what, it was my fault for becoming a divorce. As a start, I'll give you 10% of my shares in the company. Anything else you want to do to punish me, I'll accept it. I looked around blankly. Did I even have a choice? Michael was my aunt's son. Before she passed away, she begged me to take care of him. Before I went abroad, I'd asked Liana to handle a lot of things, and looking after Michael was one of them. But I never expected him to go from a nobody to the man of the house. Took me a long time to process anything. Liana's face was filled with regret. She held my hand, looking like a sad kitten, her eyes begging for my forgiveness. Just then, the front door opened easily from the outside. Michael, not noticing us, casually slipped on his slippers, put down his car keys, and expertly hung up his bag and jacket. I glanced at the watch on his wrist. It was a new model from a luxury brand that hadn't even been released in the country yet. Getting one would have taken some serious effort. I shot a questioning look at Liana. Just as she was about to explain, Michael saw us. His face froze for a second before he composed himself. A friendly smile quickly appeared. He came over, grabbed my arm, and said affectionately, Hey, man, I borrowed your fiancée for a bit while you were away. You don't mind, right? Then he suddenly covered his mouth as if he'd misspoken. Oops, that was so thoughtless. Listen to what I'm saying. He tapped himself on the head and shot Liana a helpless, pleading look. Liana reassured him, Your cousin is a big picture guy. Of course he won't get worked up over this. Not everyone is as childish as you. Childish? I couldn't help but laugh. He was only 3 years younger than me. I was his cousin, not his uncle. A few other guys followed him in, chattering as they entered. They all found slippers and put them on like they owned the place. One of them went right into the kitchen to get everyone water. When he noticed me, he asked Michael, Who's this guy? Does he want juice or water? Michael answered before I could. Water's fine. I actually laughed out loud. This was my house. The deed was in my name. I was about to say something, but Liana quickly cut me off, explaining to Michael's friends. This is his cousin. He just got back from overseas and came by to see him. The guys looked relieved. Oh, so you're just here to see Michael. We thought something serious was going on. They pointed to one of the guys. It's his birthday today. We're having a party here. A lot more people are coming later. Hope your fiancé doesn't mind, one said. I froze for a second. The fiancé was Liana, and the brother they were talking about clearly wasn't me. My brain short-circuited. So Liana was really married. I shook my head, wanting to get out of there. One of Michael's friends spoke up. I heard Michael's cousin has been abroad for a long time, a real career shark. Michael didn't even dare to bother you to buy him that watch. Your fiancé had to find a personal shopper and get on a special waitlist for it. I was wondering what line of work you're in, Mr. Price. I'm finishing my master's and can't find an internship. I was hoping you could help me out. I just wanted to leave. Ask your fiancé. She's got more pull than I do. But the young man pleaded even more desperately. Please, sir. I was too slow. She already arranged internships at the company for a few of Michael's other friends. There's no room for me. It's such a coincidence running into you today. Please give me a chance, Mr. Price. I gave Liana a cold look and saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. She looked like she wanted to say something to me but held back. I handed the young man my business card. Email me your resume. As I turned to go upstairs, I suddenly noticed the photo wall was now covered with glamour shots of Michael. They were on the sideboard and the dresser, too. A scornful smile crept onto my face. Michael suddenly called out, "Cousin, you must be tired from your long flight and the jet lag. We're having a party later, and it's going to be loud. It might bother you, so maybe—" He trailed off, but his intention to kick me out was obvious. I had finally lost my patience. I'm going upstairs to lie down for a bit. One of the smarter friends asked, "Why is your cousin resting here? We're really going to disturb him." Sensing trouble, Liana cut in before I could speak again. Your cousin has never seen you guys in action. I'll take him home to rest in a bit. You all have fun. At this point, Liana was right about one thing. I had come back to handle big things. There was some small stuff I wasn't going to let slide, but first I needed to rest. I got into the car with Liana. She held the passenger door open for me. I sat in the back seat instead. Then I closed my eyes to rest. After a long silence, I glanced over and saw her still standing there, frozen, holding the door open. I scoffed. "Sister-in-law, do I need to invite you to get in the car?" Liana looked even more embarrassed. She quickly got into the driver's seat and started the car. On the way, she kept watching me through the rearview mirror, carefully gauging my expression. I pretended not to notice. When we arrived at one of my apartments near the office, I found a cleaning crew tidying up the place. I used to crash here when I worked late at the office. Now that I needed to move in suddenly, Liana had called them in a rush. She'd certainly had a busy day. I was exhausted and sleepy, but I had nowhere to go. I had to wait at a nearby coffee shop. After giving the cleaners their instructions, Liana hurried over to find me. She took my hand, which was holding my coffee cup, and said with deep apology, "Billy, I'm so sorry to put you through this. Besides the shares, I'll do everything I can to make it up to you. I know what I did was out of line, a total lack of boundaries. It won't happen again. Honestly, I only started dealing with Michael because you asked me to. That's the only reason I got involved, but then I got in too deep." She quickly raised her hand as if swearing an oath. "But I never got emotionally involved. I know I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Are you feeling guilty?" I asked suddenly. Liana froze. I was deeply suspicious of her actions. Yet she dared to swear her loyalty to me. But right now, all I wanted was to sleep. So I got up to leave. Liana quickly grabbed my hand. "Where are you going?" Then she lowered her head in frustration. "The apartment isn't clean yet. You have to wait a little longer." I gathered my energy and said to her, "I can't go back to my own home. I've become the other man in my own relationship. Have I said anything to you? Right now, I just want to sleep. Can you grant me that?" Liana looked at me with a hint of fear. "Where are you going?" "A hotel," I said, walking away without looking back. Liana ran after me. "Billy, don't be mad. If you stay this mad, I don't know what to do. Tell me, what will it take for you to stop being angry?" I didn't break my stride. "You'll do whatever I say?" She nodded eagerly. I finally stopped and looked at her carefully. She met my gaze, her expression a mix of calm and panic. "Let's start by transferring those shares. You've brought it up several times, and it would be rude of me to keep refusing. 10% doesn't show much sincerity. Let's make it 20. If she was going to be shameless, why should I pretend to be noble?" She stared at me, shocked. "Didn't you say you were desperate for sleep?" I smiled sweetly. "I'm suddenly not tired anymore. It's your fault for not letting me go. She let out a small sigh of relief, a genuine smile finally appearing on her face. Okay, I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers. I replied nonchalantly, don't bother. I'll have my own lawyer draft them. Fear flickered in her eyes again. Billy, you don't trust me. No, I said, my eyes cold. You're not worthy of my trust. Billy. I walked away without another word. A woman who doesn't understand her own responsibilities is a terrifying thing. The first thing I did after I woke up was to arrange the equity transfer with Liana. A woman's guilt is more effective than her love. I had to strike while the iron was hot. Liana's face was grim as she accepted the documents. At the same time, she handed me another file. Look at this. I opened it. It was still an unconditional transfer of 10% of her shares. But my request for an additional 10% had been changed to an additional 20%. Only this portion came with conditions. The condition was that it would be automatically and freely transferred to me after we got married. I looked at her, puzzled. What do you mean? She lowered her gaze, her long eyelashes casting dark shadows. When she looked up again, her usual cool composure had returned. Billy, I know you too well. After this thing with Michael, I'm afraid you're going to drift away from me. But it was an honest mistake. You have to give me a chance. So I need to tie myself to you. My expression turned grave, my face a stony mask as I stared at her. Liana and I were both family outcasts. We had worked together to reclaim some of our inheritances and then built our company into what it was today. If she gave me 30% of her shares, I'd become the majority shareholder with absolute control. I could even kick her out of the company. I couldn't figure her out anymore. The dying embers of hope in my heart seemed to flicker back to life. Liana, as if a great weight had been lifted, let out a long breath and gazed at me. Filled with hope, I hesitated for a moment before asking, when are you divorcing him? I dropped everything to come back and marry you. You know that. She froze. After a long pause, shame crept back onto her face. Billy, I promised Michael I'd divorce him after a year. I can't go back on my word. What? A year? I was speechless with shock. Then I said instinctively, doesn't that officially make me the other man? This is unacceptable. In our business, reputation is everything. A huge rift now lay between us.
I stared her, unblinking.
This time, Liana didn't apologize or make excuses. She felt that the contract was proof enough of her sincerity. Now that I had it, I should be willing to pay a price. In the end, I signed the document. After all, 10% was still a freebie. Just as I handed the papers to my lawyer, Michael burst in. He snatched the documents from the lawyer's hands, tore them to shreds, and scattered the pieces over my head. Then he stood in front of Liana protectively. His eyes were red. Cousin, Liana was just helping me out. I don't know what nerve she hit, but you can't punish her like this. I can't stand by and watch. If it's a relationship problem, talk it out. Why are you taking her shares? Are you that greedy for money? He wiped the corner of his eye and said defiantly, you're secretly thinking Liana and I are hooking up, aren't you? Fine, I admit it. I had ulterior motives. I'm a toxic person. I lusted after my own cousin's fiancé. I'm a pretty boy, a scumbag. Are you satisfied now? Take your anger out on me. Give Liana her shares back. You shouldn't take that money. A look of approval flashed across Liana's cool face before vanishing. Then she scolded him, Michael, this is between your cousin and me. Stay out of it. From the day I helped you, I knew I'd have to face the consequences. I had returned in a hurry and didn't have time for their drama. Please get me another blank copy, I said. Then, turning to the stunned lawyer, I asked, do you still want this job? Go call security. When Michael realized what was happening, his eyes immediately reddened. You don't have to throw me out. I'll leave on my own. He glanced at Liana, who immediately stood up. I'll walk you out. Wait, I stopped Liana. The documents aren't signed yet. Liana pressed her lips together, took out another copy, signed it with frustrated impatience, and tossed it at me. I smiled and asked her, his timing is impeccable today. How did he know about the contents of this document? Did you tell him? Right, you two are a married couple. You should discuss everything together. Liana froze, about to explain, but Michael tugged on her sleeve again, wanting her to walk him out. Liana didn't budge, just stared at me blankly. Michael let out an irritated TSK and left, fuming. I ignored them and went back to reviewing the documents. Liana stood there, frozen, for a long time. I had helped my cousin Michael with many things over the years. After his mother died, I helped his family pay off their mortgage, covered his father's medical bills and Social Security, and funded him through high school and college. He spent 2 years as an exchange student abroad, which was incredibly expensive. When he couldn't get into a graduate program here or finish one abroad, he managed to become a visiting scholar, another huge expense. And during all those years I was helping him, my own life wasn't easy, especially at the beginning. Now that he had latched onto someone powerful, it was time to settle the score. I figured he wouldn't dare stiff me on such a small amount of money. I went to his office but couldn't find him. A colleague pointed to a hidden spot near a flower bed outside. Michael was on the phone, his expression grave. I sensed something was off. Turning on my phone's voice recorder, I walked over. That bet is between you and me. Don't you dare tell a soul. Remember, if Liana finds out, I'm finished. What? Win over Liana within a year? I can't do that. But my dear cousin can't stand impurities. He'll leave on his own. I'll just wait to take his place. These days, morality is just a chain. What successful man doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve? Michael was right about one thing. I could be a bit too rigid. That evening, I returned to the home Liana and I once shared, this time with a professional photographer. We took countless pictures of their wedding portrait and all the other traces of their life together. When I got home, I was suddenly struck by a fever and collapsed. The high temperature left me delirious. I was aware of Liana visiting, but I couldn't get up. Liana carefully questioned the home health aide about my condition and then personally went to the kitchen to make me some simple broth and soup. Afterward, she sat by my bed, watching me for a long time. What do you plan to do with those photos? I've known you for years and never asked you for anything. But this time, I'm begging you not to expose this and embarrass Michael. I've come this far. I don't want it all to be for nothing. Michael isn't a bad person. He won't fight you for anything. Objectively speaking, don't you think he has a good moral compass? You used to care for him so much, didn't you? I'll buy your house from you. Let's just end this here. She sighed. Honestly, I regret it too. But it really was just a small thing. Can't you just let it go? When I came to my senses, there was a home purchase agreement on my pillow, with the price left blank. There was also a blank check. And finally, a note in Liana's elegant, carefree handwriting. Fill in whatever you want, as long as it makes you feel better. P. It's all your money sooner or later anyway, followed by a smiley face. My house, including renovations, was worth 15 million. I wrote 50 million on the check. Once I had recovered, I met with Liana to handle the property transfer. The moment she saw me, her expression was momentarily unnatural before she tried to affectionately take my hand. I subtly moved it away. While waiting for our number to be called, Liana ducked into a quiet corner to take a call. I happened to be getting hot water from the dispenser nearby. I heard Liana say it's a bit more money than I expected, but it's okay. I know him. He's just so insecure that he fixates on money like this. You're a good man. Not everyone has your perspective on money. In the quiet space, I could tell she was talking to Michael. When she turned and saw me standing behind her, Liana's face froze. She quickly hung up. I looked at her with a smirk. Regretting the money? I thought people like you were above discussing money. And I certainly never expected you to gossip behind someone's back. Liana quickly explained, it's not what you think. You're taking it out of context again. I shook my head. That 50 million doesn't just cover the house. It includes all the money I spent on Michael over the years. You've essentially bought his freedom. So congratulations. The house and the man are both yours now. Liana's face turned purple with rage. You have a nasty way with words. Don't worry. There's someone waiting for you whose values align perfectly with yours. Sister-in-law, Billy. I remembered Michael saying I would step aside and he would just pick up the pieces. They liked ambiguity, so I decided to play along and not mention it just to see what would happen. Michael invited me to his birthday party. I declined. In Liana's office, she was standing by a filing cabinet while Michael, clutching her clothes, was practically pressed against her. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Every year, my cousin celebrated with me. He even gave me expensive presents. Now he's ignoring me. It can't go on. Liana patted his head while continuing to look for a file. Then go apologize to him. You come with me. I knocked on the half-open door. I could see the two of them quickly jump apart. At the office, Liana was my girlfriend. In Michael's circle, she was his wife. She switched roles so effortlessly. After getting a response, I pushed the door open and walked in. Michael greeted me brazenly. Cousin. I ignored him. I handed a file to Liana. Sister-in-law, here's what you wanted. Liana's hand trembled as she took the file. Just then, another employee came in. Mr. Price, you're here too, perfect. Mr. Goldmine Senor has invited you both to his golden anniversary party. Are you free that day? Liana answered, yes, we are. It's an important event, so we'll make time. At the same time, I answered, no, we can't go. That party is only for couples who have been together for more than 10 years. We can't go. Liana's face stiffened. Michael's eyes grew red. The employee mumbled, but you two have been together for over 10 years, so you're on the invitation list. I smiled and shook my head. The over 10 years part is true, but as for… Liana's face turned pale. On Michael's birthday, my grandfather, who was sick in bed, asked me to deliver his gift to Michael personally. So I went after all. The party was in full swing. Someone was holding up a wedding album, pointing to a photo and shouting, I'm a photographer, and I can tell this kissing photo is fake. It's a forced perspective shot. You must have been too shy in front of the photographer. I don't care. I demand you kiss for real right now, and I'll take the picture. The crowd started cheering and egging them on. They started pushing the two of them together. Michael stumbled and fell into Liana's arms. Liana caught him steadily. Both of them were beaming. As the crowd roared, Michael leaned in to kiss Liana but accidentally bumped her chin. Pushed by the crowd, Liana lost her balance, and their lips suddenly pressed together. At first, Liana's eyes went wide, and she forgot to push him away. By the time she reacted, Michael had wrapped his arms around her neck, deepening the kiss. The crowd went wild. As if by instinct, Liana glanced over the crowd and saw me standing at the edge of the circle. She shoved Michael away without a second thought. Her face turned cold and stern. She started pushing through the crowd to get to me, but Michael grabbed her. His face was panicked, and he shook his head at her. Liana hesitated, then gave up on coming over, trying to placate me with her eyes instead. Just then, one of Michael's college roommates spotted me. We had met when I was arranging for Michael's study abroad. They insisted on pulling me into the center of the crowd. After telling everyone about all I had done for Michael, they all sighed. If I had a cousin like that, I'd give up 10 years of my life. Liana's expression was complicated. Michael's eyes welled with tears. He told the crowd, I did something wrong and made my cousin angry. I said flatly, what wrong thing? I don't know anything about it. Michael was speechless, his tears stopping in their tracks. From a short distance away, Mr. Coleman Jr.'s voice rang out. Billy, what are you doing here? Liana, you're here too. You two skipped my parents' golden anniversary to have your own party? You think old people are boring? He then added jokingly, only couples of 10 years or more are qualified to attend. You two really don't know what's good for you. The laughter and chatter suddenly died down. I looked at Liana. You want to explain? For the first time, Liana's usually calm face showed genuine panic. The fire could no longer be contained. Liana sighed, about to step forward and explain something, but she opened her mouth several times and couldn't get the words out. At that moment, Michael stepped up. He swallowed his shame, his face resolute. It was me. It was all my fault. I got mixed up with bad friends and made a bet. It was my sister-in-law, Liana, who helped me by marrying me to solve the crisis. I didn't know it would cause all this. I regret it so much.
I'm sorry, cousin. I'm sorry, Liane.
Now that I've finally taken responsibility, I hope you won't blame her anymore. She's a good person. Please cherish her. Someone started clapping. Others looked at me, expecting me to say something. What was I supposed to say? I just scoffed. After the farce was over, Liana found me, furious. You called Coleman Jr. here, didn't you? That's what Michael thinks, too. Things like that don't just happen by coincidence. I looked at this stranger before me and shook my head. This is something a simple breakup could solve. Why would I make it so complicated? Liana's anger flared. You standing on your moral high ground? You'd never let a cheating couple like us off so easily. Getting revenge is more your style. I suddenly laughed. Have you never once suspected Michael's intentions? He's just a naive kid who hasn't seen the world. What bad intentions could he have? I thought of the recording I had of Michael. Morality is just a chain. What successful man doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve? I had originally planned to play it for Liana at the right moment. But now, I felt that the right moment didn't matter at all. I could win back a person, but I couldn't save her soul. So, when I release it is entirely up to me. In the underground parking garage, Liana and Michael were facing each other. Liana's face was cold. I was originally going to take the fall for you on this, no matter what, but things didn't go as planned. I'll make it up to you in other ways later. Michael suddenly threw himself into Liana's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Caught off guard, Liana stumbled back 2 steps, but she still instinctively held on to him. Michael sobbed, Liana, I never thought you'd take a bet made by a nobody like me so seriously. I'm already so grateful for everything you've done. Let me be the one to make it up to you. My cousin is still mad, isn't he? It's my fault for ruining your relationship. I'll go explain everything to him right now. Liana shook her head. He's a smart man, he doesn't need an explanation. He's just trying to make things difficult for you on purpose. I stepped out of the shadows. When Liana saw me, she didn't push Michael away. She looked at me openly, without a trace of guilt. I pulled out my phone and video called Coleman Jr. How'd you happen to show up where Liana and I were today? He answered casually, I'd had a few too many and was looking for the restroom. What? Did I walk into some soap opera? The Coleman family was prominent and powerful. There was no way he would lie or act in a play for me. Liana's eyes widened in shock as she looked at me. For the first time, I realized how naive Liana could be. She suspected the innocent and trusted the deceitful. The truth is, she cheated. Once she had a favorite, her judgment became completely skewed. I hung up the phone. I stared at Liana and said, there are indeed things more important than money in this world, but you have to be worthy of them. I went back to the office for a meeting to delegate my work before heading abroad again on business. I also appointed a deputy CFO to help me keep an eye on the company's operations. From this day forward, I would be aware of every single matter in the company, big or small. Liana sensed my crisis mode maneuvering and began to panic. She wanted to knock on my office door but hesitated several times. Finally, as if she had made up her mind, she left the company. The next time I saw her, she was holding a small red booklet.
I'm divorced.
Then she knelt, holding up a ring. Marry me. I was silent for a long time, then suddenly laughed. Didn't you already propose? Why are you doing it again? She shook her head, her eyes red. It's different. I did something wrong, and I need your forgiveness. Does Michael approve? Liana froze. What does he have to do with it? Weren't you two always discussing everything? Liana looked embarrassed for a moment. I was a bit clueless before. I thought since he was your family, he wouldn't give me bad advice, so I let some things slip in conversation. That's what caused the misunderstandings. I smiled faintly, feigning honesty. Once we're married, that document becomes effective. But Liana was pouring her heart out. Billy, I have a clear understanding of myself. I'm capable, but I'm not that ambitious. I'd rather enjoy the peace after building an empire, while you love to keep pushing forward. You're better suited to run the company than I am. Even if you kick me out after we're married, I'll still get substantial dividends as a shareholder. and I have other things I enjoy doing. I'm a science person. I could set up a research lab to develop new products for the company. That might even help the company grow. I smiled brilliantly. Liana spoke with heartfelt sincerity, but her clenched fists betrayed her. She didn't like giving up power. Women might be more resilient than men in their careers, but when faced with a failing relationship, they are also more likely to compromise, trading power for stability. But in the current situation, if Liana didn't show enough sincerity to move me, we were likely headed for a split. The company's future would also be uncertain. Things had spun out of her control. The situation was far more complex and difficult than she had imagined. So she had to bite the bullet. I agree to marry you, I answered briskly. Joy slowly spread across Liana's face, and she smiled with deep relief. She slipped the ring on my finger. It was a perfect fit. Thank you for being willing to marry me twice. But I have conditions, I said. Liana flinched reflexively. We need to get the license today, I smiled. Just today. Whether you can do it or not is up to you. Liana looked at me, uncertain. I added, we'll get the license but won't tell anyone. We'll announce it at the wedding. Liana, what do you mean? Just answer yes or no. Yes, of course, yes. From 18 to 28. Thank God I didn't waste my best years trying to figure out one woman. It's hard for one person to ever truly know another. What's 10 years? Some people don't figure it out after decades. With the marriage certificate in hand, I had my lawyer process the transfer of the other 20% of the shares. At the same time, I brought in more of my people to strengthen my control over the company. I also had a lawyer draft a prenuptial agreement for Liana and me to sign. What a joke. There was no way I wasn't going to firmly grasp the 30% of Liana's shares that were now in my hands. The law has provisions for prenuptial assets, but I had a lawyer make it even more explicit. This was my reward for all the humiliation I'd endured. I had been holding back for a long time. The cost was high. Since we were settling prenuptial assets, it inevitably brought up Liana's first marriage. Liana said to me, trying to be conciliatory, a fake marriage is a fake marriage. Michael and I had a solid prenup. What's mine is mine. And Michael isn't an unreasonable person. I couldn't help but cut her off. You think he's reasonable just because he doesn't want your money? You have really low standards for people. You helped him. Shouldn't he be the one giving you money? Liana was stunned. After a long, awkward pause, she said, I thought of him as your relative, so I was a little kinder to him. I said firmly, from today on, he and I have no relationship whatsoever. Now that the bridge between you is gone, is there any need for you two to stay in touch? Liana froze again before responding after a moment. Actually, you don't have to be so heartless. He is your family, after all. A sarcastic smile spread across my face. Family. I really do have a great family. Liana added, sigh, this was my fault too. I should have stayed out of it. But the situation was really critical at the time. I replied, we live in a society with laws in a civilized world. What couldn't be resolved through official channels that required you to play the hero? Liana told me the story of Michael's troubles again. It was the same old tale. He had pissed off a rich kid named Xavier, a nasty piece of work who preyed on people with no connections. Michael found out about Liana's influence and begged her to protect him. But Xavier didn't believe they were connected, because he'd never heard of them having any relationship. So Michael suggested they get a marriage license and take wedding photos. Because Xavier was a notorious, reckless punk in their circle, Liana stepped in for Michael. Liana had told me this story over and over again. I was sick of hearing it. This time I warned her again, Xavier is bad news. I hear he's a real piece of work. Stay away from him or it won't end well. I said this casually, just to keep the conversation from dying, not out of any real concern. I had gotten what I wanted. I couldn't just turn on her immediately. We had both fought for our share from our respective families. Liana had gotten more money than me and invested more in the company, so naturally, she became the chairwoman. Now, because of a relationship issue, she had handed over her shares. The least I could do was give her some face. But that night, when Liana wanted to stay at my place, I refused. I explained, I don't know Michael and I don't know what his personal life was like when he was abroad. I've had a hard road to get where I am. It's not worth the risk of catching some disease. Liana blinked, the implication finally dawning on her. Her face flushed. Billy, what do you take me for? How could I have slept with Michael? I replied calmly, the day I came back unexpectedly. My home was filled with men's products that weren't mine. Are you telling me you two weren't sleeping together in my house? Liana's eyes turned red. Am I that disgusting in your eyes? I replied just as coldly, as if you have any idea what's appropriate and what isn't. I added, go get tested. A full panel for every STD. Give me the report. We'll talk in 3 months. My grandfather called me over for dinner. Sure enough, Michael was there, though he didn't look well. He was probably disappointed that I hadn't flown into a rage and broken up with Liana. This whole ordeal taught me a lesson. You have to be both firm and flexible, not just chase after black and white truths. And so I didn't fall into his trap. But it was a close call. I almost fell for it. I looked at the boy I had protected as he grew up and gave a cryptic smile. My grandfather kept piling food onto my plate, urging me to eat more. Brothers don't hold grudges overnight, he said. Michael is just a bit thoughtless. Don't hold it against him. So he had called for reinforcements. Some relatives love to smooth things over without solving anything. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Years ago, my parents had earned shares while building up my maternal grandfather's company. After they died suddenly, my uncle held on to those shares and gave me a hard time. I was the one who fought to get that money back. My grandfather and the others just sat back and enjoyed the benefits. But for now, I just smiled and replied, you should focus on happier things. Grandpa, like how much money your grandson made on his latest trip. Or how your grandson is getting married, and you'll soon have 4 generations under one roof. As for Michael, didn't he say he was going to get married before me? How come there's no news? Oh wait, I almost forgot you already… Billy, Michael cut me off hastily. So he was capable of shame. The innocent, worldly wise boy persona, that whole surprising depth act, turns out it only works on women. The fact that he married my fiancée was something he still had to hide from our grandfather. I stared at him, and Michael's eyes reddened. I continued to provoke him. Michael, do you want to be my best man? My fiancée's dress is custom made from that designer you love. The groomsmen's tuxes are from the same collection. You could wear it to events after the wedding. Then I covered my mouth. Oh, I just remembered. You can't be a groomsman. Then I laughed. There's a tradition in our family that married men can't be groomsmen. He knew crying in front of our grandfather wouldn't help, so the tears welled up in his eyes but didn't fall. But this time, the tears were real. The sting of a failed scheme. On the wedding day, everything was perfect. All the arrangements, from the ceremony to the decor, were exactly as I had envisioned for years. The bride was still the woman I had once adored. It was as if nothing had ever happened, as if it was all water under the bridge. Liana and I waited at the side of the stage. The officiant was rambling on, reminiscing about our past. He kept exchanging glances with me, a silent question. Is it time to exchange rings? I gave a barely perceptible shake of my head. I had to wait. I didn't believe he wouldn't make a move. Sure enough, Liana's phone rang. I was the one who'd told her to keep it with her. While everyone's attention was elsewhere, Liana took out her phone and glanced at it. One look, and she froze. Then she started to panic. She tried to speak to me several times, but I wouldn't look at her. Finally, she said loudly, Billy, Michael is trying to kill himself. A life is at stake. I have to go see him. The moment her phone rang, I had switched on the lapel mic clipped to my suit. Now, her loud voice boomed through the microphone, drowning out the officiant. A gasp went through the crowd. Liana froze too. She had probably planned to slip away quietly, leaving me to explain to the guests and deal with the mess. Just like when she had secretly married Michael, leaving me humiliated and cornered. But there was no way I was falling into the same trap twice. I said calmly, who did you say is trying to kill himself? And you have to rush over? I didn't quite hear you, but everyone in the audience had heard clearly. Michael, his name was whispered over and over. Liana gritted her teeth. Billy, we're already legally married. A wedding is just a ceremony. How can it compare to a human life? She said it, ignoring the fact that my mic was on. How could I let her off the hook? Michael is my cousin. I supported him for years. Many of his relatives are sitting in the audience. May I ask why he's calling you now that he's threatening suicide? From the audience, a good friend of mine yelled, "Yeah, why call you at this exact moment? He just doesn't want you two to get married." Oh my God. I've never seen anything like it. The nerve of this home wrecker. I've truly seen it all now. Who would have imagined this before coming here? Liana still insisted. A life is on the line. I have to go. I grabbed her, my expression stern. Before you go, can you tell me what exactly is the relationship between you two? Liana said nothing, shook off my hand, and turned to leave. I swayed, almost losing my balance. I walked onto the stage, a wreck, my voice cracking several times. Finally, I managed to say, "Everyone, look, this is what a 3-person marriage looks like. It's too crowded, isn't it?" I let out a long sigh. Finally, I forced myself to say, "A woman who can't get her priorities straight, who can't take responsibility, does not deserve to be at the helm of our company. Since all the shareholders are here, there's no time like the present. Today, as the majority shareholder, I am calling for a vote to replace the CEO." All the shareholders and key clients had brought their families to this wedding. Nobody likes being cheated on, man or woman. In front of their wives, every man, no matter his character, had to put on a show. And so, my proposal was unanimously approved. A wedding turned into a board meeting to replace the chairman. I had achieved my goal. If I hadn't done it today, I don't know how long it would have taken to achieve a smooth, legitimate transfer of power without controversy. By the time Liana rushed back, the crowd had long since dispersed. My secretary and I were discussing the next steps. She came up to me, panting. "Michael is fine. Good thing I got there in time." I scoffed. "How timely could you have been? Faster than the police? Quicker than an ambulance? More useful than a doctor?" Liana's face darkened. "Billy, when did you become so cold-blooded?" I answered, "The moment the person closest to me betrayed me." She sighed. "I know Michael wronged you. He developed feelings for me that he shouldn't have." I replied coldly, "You're only just realizing that? I've known for a while. You weren't just pretending not to know, were you?" Liana was at a loss for words. Then she said, "He's still your cousin. You should be a little more lenient with him." I looked up from my work to answer her. "Michael is an interesting person. What he needs has never been leniency. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done what he did. You're telling me to be lenient? Be careful that boomerang doesn't come back and hit you." As soon as I finished, Liana's phone vibrated. She looked at the message. Someone had finally tipped her off that she had been ousted by the impromptu board meeting. Her eyes turned red with fury. "Billy, you took advantage of a crisis." I smiled. "How does it feel to be betrayed by the person closest to you? Now you know." I laughed again. "It's not like you're earning a penny less. It's just that my burden has gotten a little heavier." Liana looked at me like I was a stranger, just as I had looked at her when I first returned. I taunted her again. "The bride running out on her own wedding. I thought you'd come back ready to offer another punishment, maybe voluntarily step down. So I went ahead and took care of it for you." Liana stared at me in disbelief, stumbling back a few steps. Her eyes were sharp. "You planned this from the beginning, didn't you?" I quickly stopped her. "I had no idea Michael was going to threaten suicide. Don't make things up. You're making me sound like some kind of mastermind." Then I laughed mockingly. "The mastermind is someone else. Just you wait." I added, "Being capable at work isn't the same as being manipulative. There's a big difference." Then I shook my head and said self-deprecatingly, "But I guess you can't tell the difference anyway." Liana collapsed into a chair, her expression a mix of defeat and accusation. "I've already paid the price. It's not right for you to be so passive-aggressive all the time." I laughed out loud. "You call this passive-aggressive? Have you ever met someone who's actually sharp-tongued? I've been giving you face, you know?" I paused, then continued my assault. "To throw away your reputation and career for someone you barely know, you really are a fool for love. It's just a shame all that devotion was so misplaced." Liana, her face flushed, shot back. How am I irresponsible? I'm too responsible. I took my promise to Michael too seriously, and that's what led to this mess. Isn't it? At this point in the argument, I finally gritted my teeth and let my anger show. Keeping a promise is an admirable quality. Promise is a promise. But you have to know who deserves such a precious thing and who doesn't. Are you really that clueless? Or are you just playing dumb? Liana stared at me in shock. From the moment she married Michael until now, I had never lost my temper with her. She must have thought I didn't have one. After that momentary flash of true emotion, I reined in my anger and became calm again. Liana's gaze was a complicated mix of grief, scorn, and finality. After we parted on bad terms that day, I didn't see Liana for over a month. When I saw her again, she had regained her composure. She handed me a medical report. I did all the tests you asked for. They're all negative. What about yours? Her voice trailed off, laced with sarcasm. Of course, I came prepared. I pulled out several reports. These are from 3 consecutive months, 1 test per month. I have no concerns in that department. This is purely to deal with your baseless and unreasonable accusations. After all, I'm not the type to just marry someone on a whim. The sadness on Liana's face was fleeting. Her eyes reddened, and she tried to grab my hand but missed. She could only clutch my sleeve. Billy, I know I was wrong. From today on, let's start over. Okay? The company is yours. I'll go set up the RD team. I gave another cold laugh. You'd better bring me 3 consecutive months of clean medical reports before we talk about anything. After all, some diseases have a very long incubation period. To be honest, I hadn't thought about how to wrap things up. But I knew there was one person I could count on. I also didn't know when to file for divorce. It was a difficult position, but I had seized control of the company. The feeling of holding all the power, of having everything in my grasp, was just too good. Without these worries dragging me down, I could finally go all out. Another month passed. Michael posted a photo on his social feed with the caption, "The rest of my life. Responsibility. Fate has given me a gift I cannot refuse." After many days, I went to Liana's office to find her. She was leaning on her desk, her head in her hands. Hearing me enter, she looked up. Her eyes were frighteningly red. Then she swiveled her chair around to face away from me. I thought at this point Liana was in checkmate. She just refused to admit defeat. I turned to leave, but she suddenly stood up, walked over to me, and her face was more humble than I had ever seen it.
Billy, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to betray you. On our wedding day, you turned the venue into a boardroom to impeach me. I figured since I already had a bad name, I might as well own it. It was just that one time. Really, just once, out of spite. I never thought it would lead to this. Later, I'll admit I was fooled by him. But ultimately, we have no intellectual connection. We were never truly compatible. I really know I was wrong. I smiled thoughtfully. Tell him to handle his own affairs. Liana was beside herself with joy, and I placed the divorce papers on her desk. Liana stormed in to find me. There were employees in my office, but I didn't ask them to leave. I said it right in front of them, "Liana, legally, that child has nothing to do with you. But Michael is the man you had an affair with. I will not let a single cent of my money go to that father and son. I warned you long ago that Michael was not simple, that you should stay away. Did you listen to a single word? I told you I had cut ties with him, so what does it mean that you were still in contact with him? What did you say to me back then? You told me to be magnanimous. You were certainly magnanimous to him, and he played you for a fool. Our prenup states that the unfaithful party must compensate the victim. We're done. Let's not make this uglier than it has to be." Liana stared at me for a long time. Finally, she said, "Everything is under your control, isn't it?" I laughed mockingly. "I didn't push you into his arms." Liana and I finally divorced. By then, her assets were no longer as substantial, and she was no longer so generous. She no longer threw around offers of giving me this or that percentage of shares. In the property settlement, she just gave me 2 extra sprawling apartment flats. I mocked her with a smile so frugal now, Lou, saving up to buy baby formula for someone else's child? Liana's face was stiff. She said nothing. The day we got our divorce decree, the sun was shining brightly. I thought it was time to bring out that recording. As we parted, I took the initiative and grabbed Liana's sleeve. She turned around, pleasantly surprised. Billy, I knew you couldn't bear to let me go. I turned the volume on the recording all the way up. A worldly, calculating voice, completely at odds with Michael's usual image, came out. That bet is between you and me. Don't you dare tell a soul. Remember, if Liana finds out, I'm finished. What? Win over Liana within a year? I can't do that. But my dear cousin can't stand impurities. He'll leave on his own. I'll just wait to take his place. These days, morality is just a chain. What successful man doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve? Although the tone was different, it was unmistakably Michael. Liana's face was as white as paper, her eyes staring blankly at me. It was as if she hadn't heard the recording. Only when people around us started whispering did she snap back to reality. When she looked at me, tears started to fall. Why didn't you warn me sooner? You've had this for a long time. I couldn't hide the smile on my face. I warned you many times, but you weren't the least bit suspicious. How was I to know you'd be this stupid, that you'd need hard evidence before you'd wake up? Later, Liana left the city. She ignored Michael, true to her word. If you want child support, take me to court. I'll pay whatever the court orders. Michael was abandoned by friends and family. The people who had partied in my house all claimed they'd only heard of him but didn't know him. My grandfather's family wouldn't open the door for him, saying that in the old days, his legs would have been broken. He pounded on the door desperately, finally stopping when he sent the old man to the hospital with a heart attack. As for the company, I was firmly in control. Anyone who dared to question me was clearly hiding their own affair and just looking for an outlet. In the months that followed, I would receive postcards from different places. Sometimes they contained a few words, sometimes just a postmark. I knew they were from Liana. A long time ago, I had told her that the most romantic thing in the world was sending postcards while traveling. Unfortunately, she hadn't really listened to me in a long time. Now, she was even remembering things from the distant past. At an age when he should have been building a family, Billy Price didn't get a home. But he did get the world. A worthy partner to spend a lifetime with is a rare find, not something one can force. Once you figure that out, everything else falls into place.